I'm going to read the adventure of the Huckleberry Finn, chapter 25. Here we go. We was to Maze, and you could see the people showing down the last home map of each way. Some of them suffering on their coats as they succumbed, pretty soon it was in the middle of a crowd, and the noise of the tramping was like a soldier march. Windows and dooryard was full, and never met somebody would say over our pets. Is it them? When somebody talking so with dust again, to good answers again to say, you bet it is. When we got to the house, the street in front of it was packed, and the three doors were standing the door. Mary Jane was red-headed, but different. She was most beautiful. Her face and eyes were all lit up and like a joy. She was so red, her arms were out. I think his friend is and the mask Jane jumped up then, and their hair ripped the jumps for the view again. And there they had it, and everybody most released with the women and cried for joy to see them meet against their lost and to have such good times. Then the king, he hunched the Jew private and see him do it, and then he looked around and see the coffins in the car with two chairs, and so then him and the Duke, and then with a hand across to each other's shoulder, and then the others down to their eyes, looked slowly and solemn over there, and everybody dropping to back to leave them for a room. Now all the talk and noise stopping, people saying, and now all the men were taking their hats off and then drooping their heads, so you could have heard that thing before. And they got there, they went over, looking at the coffins and took one side, and then they busted out crying, so you could have heard them to audience. And then more standing, and they put their arms around each other's necks and hung their chins over each other's shoulders. And then for a minute, and maybe four, I never see two men lick the way they don't. The man knew everybody was doing the same, and the phrase was that, damn, I never see anything like it, and then one of them got on one side of the coffin, and the other on the other side, and they kneeled down. Now rested their foreheads on the coffins, and they went to play how better, and when it comes to that is to work down the crowd, like you never see anything like it, and everybody broke down. And I went to something wider her loud, not to talk goes to, and every woman's nearest went up to the doors without saying a word, and he kissed them and so on the forehead, and then took his hand on their head, looked towards the sky, where the tears were running down them, and then busted it out and went off to solving his surviving and give the next woman a show. I never see anything so disgusting. Well, by and by, and the king, he gets up and comes forward a little. Walked himself up and then slobbers out of speech, all full of tears, and talked to about his being a sore cried spring, and his poor brothers lose the deceased, and missed the same disease alive after a long journey of 4,000 miles. But he saw trial sweet, and then sanctified to us by this dear sympathy and these horror tears. So he thinks them out of his heart and out of his brother's heart, because out of their mouth they can't words bring to weep cold, all kind of luck and flush the fears. It was just a thickening, and it blubbered out, fires, and goody, turns himself loose and goes with crying, with bust. And I mean, the words that were out of his mouth and somebody, and over in the crowd, struck out and dog sorrow, and never joined, but it's all their might, and just warmed you up and made it feel as good as church everything out. Then you do this thing, and all that soul was butter and house, I never see it, the fashions of things and so. And sounds was understandable, and the king begins to work his jaws again, and says how him and Mr. Neaston would be glad There's a few of the main principals, the friends of the family, who takes efforts to heal and with them to sibling and help set up the various axis of the disease ancestry. And his first brother and youngest, so to speak, then he knows them with name. So there was names and that was very dear to him and mention often his brother, and so it was named the same to then it followed Reese and the rest. So Mr. Hoffman, taken Rockford Hobby, Mr. Van Born, Christoph, and Schenker, left West, and Dr. Lovins, and their wives, and their windows, and left Houston, and Dr. Lovins was down to the end of town. I wanted to get a studies. I mean, the doctors were shipping sickness man to the other wall, and then the preacher was a fighting thing, right? Although the bell was away up to the Louisville some business, but the last was on hand, and so they all come and they shook hands with his king and thanked him and talked to him, and then they shook hands with the duke and then design and nothing, but I just kept us smiling and the bottom stairs house like at the top of the pad that was he made all sort of signs with his hands and said all fine like a baby, and that's how talk. And so the king, he blushes along and managed to inquire about pretty much everybody, and in towns the best names, and mention all sorts of little things that happened one time around in the town to George family store to Peter, and he always let on that Peter's allowing him the things, and but that was a lie. They got every precious one of them out that the young person was canoed up to the steamboat. Then Mary Jane, she passed the letters her father left behind the king. He said he let it out and loud and cried over it. It was one house and $3,000 in gold, and to the girls, and he gave the 10-yard, and which was doing a business along with some other houses, land, and the was about $7,000. And $3,000 in gold to Harry and William. And where the 6,000 cash was announced. So these two powers started to go and fetch it up and have everything scarce and all, and then told me to come with the candle. We shut the cellar doors and the pianos, and when they found the back, and they spread out on the floor, and it was a lovely sight. All them yellow boys and the way in the king's eyes, and the shine and the slaps the duke on the shoulder and said, "Oh, they tend to bully nothing into the like and that. But the really beast, and then no such and done it. The jewelry did, and the bow and the yellow boys and them through their finger and let them finger down on the floor." The king says, "It ain't no use talking. But the ball was to reach that man at the first of the fool and inherit. But God left his light for you and me. I think years comes up first in providence. The best way in the long run, I've tried is the arms, and there's no better way. Most everybody would the being and satisfied with this fire and then took it out first and the unknown. We must count it, and so they count. And it comes out $415 short. And says king, without him, I wonder what he done with that $415. They all go the wire and the ransacked and all around for it, and then the duke says, "Well, it was a pretty sick man, and likely he made a mistake. I like on this the way of it, and the best way is to let it go. And they keep serious about it, and we can spare it." Well, short. Yeah, we can spare it, and I don't care, so nothing is worth it. I just I'm thinking about, we want to be awfully curious how often we get the balls, we want to look at this here, so when upstairs and found in you play everybody, and nothing suspicious, when that himself like $6,000 and what I want, and the whole that is due, and let's make a deficit. He began to howl out and yell boys out of his pocket. It is a most amazing idea. You have to go to Latin club head of you, says the king, and blessed the old non-shirt Ain't happening just out again. And I began to haul out the yellow jacket and to expect them off. Most was dancing, but they made up the 6,000 and clean and clear. Say, look, here are other ideas. Let's go up the stairs and count this money. And I'll take it again in 2 words. Forgive. It's the most dazzling ideas in every semester. And you suddenly got the most astonishing I ever see. On this is the both Dutch, and there were no mistake about it, and let them pass it along there, so that they want to, and this was lay out. When we got upstairs and everybody gathered and around the table, and the king counted it and staked up $300 in the fire and 20 hours and water price. Everybody looked hungry at it and licked their chops, and then they break it into the bag again. And I see the king begins to line himself up for another speech. He says, "When all my foot brother lays yonder stand has done generous to by them and thus the left behind me in the ball of swords. And he don't generous to by these years the little lambs and he loved the shepherd and that's love to our fathers and mothers and yes and we don't know this him that he was announced and more generous to them. And if he hadn't been afraid announced there's the William and me. No, wouldn't he? And I'm no questions about it in my mind and well, that's what kind of brothers which be that to spend it in this way, at such time and what kind of going to in order to get to love, yes, love. So for 3 lamps, the details he loves to take the time. If I know the Williams, I think I do. When I just asked him, so he turns around and begins to make a lot of signs and Duke and with his hands, and the Duke looks at him stupid and left heavy wire. All of a sudden he seems to catch his meanings and jumps for the king, begins to all smiles for joy and helps him about and 15 times before it was up. Then the king says, I knew it, I like instead always convince anybody the way. It's a feels about it, here's the Mary Jane, Susan, John, take the money. He knows that it's the gift of him that lazy understand and but joyful. Mary Jane she went for him. Susan heard the lift went and for the Duke and then such another hugging and kissing. I don't see yet and everybody crowded and after with tears in their eyes and most shook the hands of them and crowd the saying all the time. So you just got good souls. How lovely and how could you and well, at 3 sons, the old hands got to talking about disease then again and how good he was and what a loss he was and the people along in the big and iron road and the man walked himself and there's the phones outside and so listening started looking into saying anything and never saying anything to him in interest because the king was talking and they were all busy listening. The king was saying in the middle of something that he was studying us and had to bring to postulate the friends on the deed. And that's why they invited here this evenings that tomorrow we want all to come. Everybody is for he respected everybody, he liked everybody. So he's speaking and his funeral psychologist, they should probably. And so he went on meetings on and on. It's like him to hear himself to talk, every little while to touch his funeral all again. Till the Duke he couldn't stand it anymore. And then so he writes on a little scraps of paper of truth and then you and hold it up and then goes to Guru and lets Mr. Albert puts a hat to him. The king he reads it and he puts it in his pocket says, put away, I put it as it is, and then his heart a little light asks Demetrius to invite everybody to come to the funeral. When Demetrius may come to the world welcomes. And but he needn't avoid it. It was just what I was yet. Then he moved and so long again, spoke to his hand and goes to dropping his funeral artist again now and then, just like at the dawn before. And when he dawns, the third time he says, I say artist, not because it's the common term, because it ain't an obscure to being the common term, but because artist is the right term, obscure I in music in England, no more now it's gone out. which are always now in England always better because it means and the thing that you left is more exact. But the word that made up the outs and Greek the elbow outside is often abroad and the Hebrews listen. When I cover the hands in store, so you see in funerals or stays on often public funeral. It was worse than I ever struck the word Aaron Jordan man. He laughed his life in space, and everyone was shocked. Everybody said, and it's white darker, and Abner says, why Robinson? And you heard this Heavyweights. And the king smiled eager and shook out his flat hair and says, this is my four brothers, dear good friend, the physician. Keep your hands off of me, said the doctors. You talk like an Englishman, don't you? It's the worst imitation I ever heard. You're the Bitterroot's brother. You're proud. And that's what you are. And, well, how they all talk on. How they crowd around the doctor and try to quiet them down and try to spread to tell him how heavy is the shoulder and 48 and it was heavy. And no, I never read about it. And the names of the red dog and the back and the maybe not to hurt the harvest tree and the full goes beneath. Now that everyone knew, and he stormed the right arms and satisfied man pretends to be an Englishman and could imitate his lingo of the president. But what he did utter proud alive. The poor ghost was hanged to the king and crying. All of a sudden the doctor of St. Townsend there. He says, I was your father's friend, now I'm your friend. I want you as a friend, an honest one, and wants to protect you and keep you out of harm and trouble. Turn your backs on the scoundrels and have nothing to do with the team and they ignore it. Fine. What is idiot Greek and Hebrew style calls it, and he is the kind of imposter. Has come here to do with a lot of empty, knowing the fact which is the pick of the summers, and then you take them for poops and help to fool yourself by these foolish friends here, who each knows better than Mary Jane Wicks, and you know it's for your friend and for your unselfish friend too. Now listen to me. Down the street puts the last goes out. A baby or today. Mary Jane straight a heart up and mine, and the book. She was answering, she said, here is my answers, and she hooked up the bag of money is in the king's hands and says, take the $60,000 and invest for Mr. My sister, and as you want to, and give us this home. And then she put her arm around the king's side. Susan and Mr. Lipton and Saint on together. Everybody clapped their hands and stomped on the floor like a perfect storm, while the king held up his head and smiled proud. Says, all right, our man don't matter. I will use it all times coming. When you're going to this, whenever you think of this day, and away he went. All right, doctor, said the king and kindred marching. All the fires to get them for you, and which made them all laugh. And they said it was a flying police. Oh. Icon. Okay.